Oh, so recently Orbx released Banja Luka Airport in Bosnia Herzegovina for Microsoft Flight Simulator. So we're going to go and take a look at it. So we're out here on the ground with the aircraft we're going to be flying today, which is the black square Cessna C208 Grand Caravan. But before we get to the aeroplane, let's go and have a look around at the airfield. So before we go inside, let's go and take the drone camera way up in the air. You can see the modelling of the airfield is absolutely spectacular. It is really, really good. So up at the far end over here, there is where the fuel is delivered, I guess. So there's various tanker bays for the tankers to drive into. And then back down on the airport, you've got the control tower side over here. Now it's interesting to look at the airfield because you've got the civilian side here, obviously, with the various gates and the parking and the logistics for cargo. And then on the far side of the field, there's a military airfield as well. And obviously you can see military hangars over there, disguised in the landscape. So yeah, let's go and have a look around. So we'll taxi past the military part. So this side we have this tall building with really nicely modelled stairways and entranceways. And over this side we've got the old control tower, I'm guessing, or the operational control tower. We can actually go inside here. It's nicely modelled inside. Not quite sure about the tinted windows, but it looks the part though. It's nice to see all the desks and everything modelled out. You can't actually go inside this one, but the inside is in there, so you can see a seating area. And kind of the basics have been modelled out, but you can't actually go inside it. Okay, so let's go and dive down to the terminals, excuse me. So we'll fly in. Actually, let's go in through the public way. So let's go in from land side instead of air side. So you can see landside straight away. You've got all of the advertising that you'd expect to see. And if we come in through the main door, you're going to see lots of people around. It's actually really nicely done. So I imagine this is a very, very accurate recreation of the real thing. So it's quite spooky just how good it looks. So coming round at head height, it's very cool. So if we then come through to the rest of the building, you can see there's a cafeteria area, and if we come over the top, you can see obviously once you get through departures, there's all the security scanners. They've modelled everything. It's really cool, isn't it? Very, very good. Okay, so there's the main terminal building. Next door we've got the fire engines and some of the logistics down here. And again, this is all really nicely done as well. The models for the various vehicles have been really nicely done. Some of the more cargo oriented parts of the airport are down here with lifters, and appears to be is that a 701, is that called? I can't remember the exact models of all the aeroplanes in the sim. Various hangars. Okay, so we'll go and jump in our aeroplane and we'll go for a fly around the area. But I have to say, it looks amazing, doesn't it? It's really, really nicely done. Of course, it helps that we have a beautiful day today. So that often helps more than anything else. Okay, let's see if we can remember how to operate the 208 then. So I'm going to take the drone camera off for the moment completely. I'm going to unplug it because Xbox controllers can cause absolute mayhem with the drifting sticks on them. So we're going to press the insert key to get inside the aeroplane and recenter our drone camera, our head tracking. Okay, so first things first, in the Caravan you turn the switches for the fuel, and I've already taken the primary yoke off, as you can see. So batteries go to on. Now, can I remember everything? We're going to put the nav light on. We're going to go and put the beacon light on, ready to start the engine. We're going to put the propeller to max RPM. Then we're going to go and put the fuel boost to on, and then start. I'm hoping I'm not going to be completely drowned out by the engine. We'll keep an eye on the sound as we do this. So we're waiting for the NG to come up. Yeah, it's plenty high enough already. We can then advance the fuel condition to low idle. You're looking for this not to go above about 9. I think it's 950 is the absolute limit, but then it will drop down. So then when this gets past 50%, we can turn the starter off. The fuel boost can come off as well. We can reset the generator. Oops, wrong way. Reset the generator. And we could have put avionics 1 and 2 on. Oh, sorry, avionics 1 on earlier. We've done it now and put it on anyway. So the reason for doing that, for putting avionics 1 on earlier, would obviously to get permission to start your engine. Obviously now we've started the engine, we go and do avionics 2, so I've just completely screwed the ordering of that up because I'm not following a checklist. Okay, so the weather radar's on. That's interesting. That shouldn't have been on by default. Maybe I didn't turn it off last time. That's my bad. And again, yeah, so the transponder was on standby already. It wasn't off. That's me previously. So I think this aeroplane remembers pretty faithfully the condition you've left it in. Okay, so
Express 168 is at flight level 385, climbing flight level 400.
thank you for that.
Express 168 Navigraph Center radar contact. Continue to Upala.
Okay, so we're going to look at the radio frequencies here. We've got 2 frequencies ready. We're going to put 11530 on. The reason for that, should we go and detune the comm radio? Otherwise it's going to annoy us all the way around, isn't it? So, we are on the ground here at Banja Luka. So we're going to taxi out and come down, but we're going to leave, while we're doing our circuit of the area, we'll leave the VOR tuned to 115.3, and we'll have the ILS frequency, which is 108.7, on our standby frequency on the radio. So we've got 115.3 tuned in and 108.7 ready on standby for the ILS. So you can see we're at 400 feet. I'll just calibrate the altimeter to make sure. Yes, it's still correct. So we're at 400 feet altitude. So we'll be cruising at 1400 feet for our circuit. We've also got this tuned in to 165 degrees, which I think is correct for the runway. Let's just have a look. So the ILS is on 165 degrees and the runway is 165 degrees. Okay, so I've got a couple of markers in here to help us out with flying a circuit nicely and accurately. So we'll see how we get on. So, come off the parking brake, put the taxi lights on, and we should be able to just taxi out to the runway. So increase the power. We're only on low idle at the moment, remember. So it'll take a fair amount of power to get us rolling. Okay, it's a beautiful day for a flight, isn't it? So we're going to have a very slight tailwind on the runway, but it's so gentle it's not going to matter. So we're going to get to taxi right directly past the military base, which will be quite cool to see what they're doing. The advantage of setting the course for doing this circuit on the HSI is we can use it to orient ourselves for the turns. So essentially we'll take off runway direction, climb to 1400 feet, get the plane trimmed out, and then initiate our various turns at the correct distances from the VOR, referring to the distance measuring equipment as we do so. So we need to cross the runway quickly. So distance measuring equipment's here. You can actually see the VOR, it's in the scenery, it's over here, look. We'll come right past it in a moment on the taxiway. So I think these are MIL helicopters, I think. Ex-Soviet helicopters. They're very cool, don't they? Very well modelled. There's an AN2 over there parked next to the hangar. Very good. Okay, let's get on with taxiing down then, shall we? So if your geography is as poor as mine, I'll just remind you. So Bosnia Herzegovina, or sorry, Banja Luka I should say, is in Bosnia Herzegovina. We are northwest of Sarajevo, up in the hills. So it's beautiful countryside around here. Somewhere I've not really explored in the simulator very much. So there's the VOR station, if you didn't know what a VOR station looked like. All the fences are modelled with the barbed wire around the edge of the airfield. It's really well done. Okay, so yeah, the basic aim is just going to be to do a quick circuit and have a look at the airfield from the air. Taking off from this end of the runway means we will rotate before we get to the terminals, so we should get to see all of the airport from the air as we fly out on our circuit, which will be really lovely. Okay, slow down. And we'll just hold short here for a moment and get the airplane configured for flying. So we're going to go and put the landing lights on and the strobe light on, and the fuel condition can go to high idle now. Just checking around us, make sure there's nothing massive coming in. I am running FSLTL in the background, so it wouldn't be a huge surprise if something did come in while we were flying around. Okay, here we go. Rotate, and we're up. Didn't need to use flaps. Just coming up to 700 feet, so there's the main buildings. Does look amazing, doesn't it? Of course, we've got wonderful weather today, which is helping a lot. Okay, RPM and power back to cruise levels. Try and hold the runway direction. Get the aeroplane levelled out at 1400. Pull the throttle back to 50% because we don't need to, it's not a race today, we're just going to be trundling around the airport. So we're at 1400 and we'll begin a turn. So we're going to turn 90 degrees to our track, try to hold 1400 feet, which is 1000 feet above ground level. So we'll use the marker on the attitude indicator to manage our turn. And look at the HSI to get a 90-degree turn. Yeah, let's go for a bit more power then, back up to 75%. So in common with all the turboprops, we're running at high RPM the entire time. It has a governor on the engine. Whoa, look at the lift with giving it that bit more power. So we climbed up to 1500 feet there, completely accidentally. So we'll begin our turn downwind and try and get rid of that height, so we'll come back off the power a little bit. The Caravan is so powerful. See the airfield over there. So we're coming back to the reciprocal of the runway direction, back to 1400 feet. We'll just trim it out. So we're flying this manually just for a bit of practice. There's the airfield. So you can see the Caravan's quite happily just chugging along at about 110 knots. Thereabouts. If we open the throttle up to 75%, you can see the immediate lift you get from that, the nose coming up. And it's accelerating out to 120 knots. So we're 2 miles from the VOR now. I think from memory I said we need to be about 2.8 miles out before we make our turn, and then we'll be looking to drop to 900 feet by the time we're facing back towards the runway. So yeah, as we pick up speed we're getting more and more lift, and I'm having to trim and trim and trim, which is interesting. It's just wanting to go racing off. So looking at the distance measuring equipment, we're 2.2 miles out. 2.3. A little bit low. Let's get it back up to 2,400 feet. Sorry, 1,400 feet. The scenery is gorgeous around here, isn't it? It's really nicely done. Of course, it helps the weather is good, as I said earlier. So we're out to 3 miles. We've gone a little bit long, so we'll go for that marker again. And at this point we can switch over. Actually, we'll wait until we are at 90 degrees to our course and we can start dropping. So we're going to come back to 50% throttle, start losing altitude down to 900 feet. So we're now at 90 degrees from the runway and descending. And if we switch over on the radio, you can see out to the side of us, there's the runway. So we're at 900 feet. So we'll begin the turn. So you can see the CDI there for the ILS. So we've just overshot, but that's fine. Still at 900 feet, and we're waiting for the the glide slope to come down. So we'll go for flaps. So we've dropped 100 feet there without looking properly, so there we go. So we're now on the glide slope and the pappies are agreeing. It's a great looking airfield, isn't it? Pull the power. And we're down. Okay, so flaps can come back up. We have got reversers in the Caravan, so we're going to reverse the propellers, and you can see that brakes us quite rapidly. Come back off the reversers and we'll just roll along for the parking area. There's the military side again. We're just approaching the exit for the main airport. So the landing lights can come back off as we come in, if I can get to them. Same goes for the strobes. I'm just going to go down and look to see where the strobes are. There they are. That was a case of head tracking strikes again with small click spot areas. It's one of the hazards of using a head tracker, I'm afraid. So again, we can, if we can get to it, I'm just going to move the propeller out of the way a moment so we can go back to low idle. Looks amazing, doesn't it? It's really, really well modelled. And we'll go and hopefully park up where we left from. Okay, parking brake on, and cut the engine. So then we need to just check around the switches really. So the avionics 2 can come off, the taxi light can come off, nav light off, beacon light off, and some of the things we forgot earlier. So the we never used the transponder, but we weren't using air traffic control anyway really, so that can go back off. I guess technically we should go and turn each of the radios off, but I'm not sure if they're actually simulated to that extent. Oh, maybe they are. So yeah, I'm just doing a final check round that we haven't missed anything too obvious. Looking pretty good. So avionics off, batteries off, and fuel shut off. Okay, so there we go. That was the... Let's do this from the outside camera. I've just remembered I've unplugged the Xbox controller, so I can't go and re-guide us around the aeroplane with it. So there we go. That was the Cessna C208 Grand Caravan from Black Square doing a quick circuit of Banja Luka Airport from Orbx. So if you're interested in it, I'll put a link in the notes of the video. And hopefully see you again soon. So I hope you enjoyed that, and have a good weekend.